All right, Bob and Dick, thank you very much. I noticed the weather wasn't great in Knoxville today. This is what it looked like in Malibu this afternoon. Just gorgeous. Welcome to Saturday Showcase presented by 5 Hour Energy, the #1 team in college basketball. The Gonzaga Bulldogs on the road in Malibu to take on the Waves, aptly named, of Pepperdine. Hi, everybody. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham. Great to have you with us out west. We should get a good game tonight. Pepperdine challenged Gonzaga the first time these two teams met, Sean, just a couple weeks ago. We expect a competitive game tonight and a competitive battle at the point guard position.
That's really where it starts for me when you're looking at these two teams and how they compete and how they get after it. So much of it is about the point guard play. They're really a dynamic set of guards that can impact the game pretty much any way you want them to. Points per game, assists per game, steals per game. They might be separated by class as far as years go. But I tell you what, they're both pros. And Mark Few said it about Colby Ross. He's going to make a lot of money being a professional basketball player one day. And they do it very similar styles. They both like to get downhill. They can read screens, find a seam, ability to attack and score in the paint. Both use their upper body strength extremely well to finish around the basket. Then making others better. When you drive like Colby Ross, you got a lot of shooters on the outside. Kick and find them, and I still can't get over this pass at the BYU game. Suggs dropping it on a dime as soon as he got the rebound. Both guards love and thrive making others better. Jump in the passing lane, having an awareness of where the ball is, they both excel there too. So while their stats are very similar and Colby Ross likely to make some history in tonight's game as well, it's really about the guards that ignite everything for the offenses.
Isn't it amazing? Gonzaga has not lost to Pepperdine, Sean, in almost 2 decades. Pepperdine's got great hoops history. We're going to talk about that tonight. But recently, Gonzaga has absolutely dominated this WCC rivalry. And so here we go. The #1 team in college basketball. Gonzaga 16-0, 7-0 in conference play. Pepperdine coming off a nice win this week against a good BYU team. The Waves feel like they have what it takes to challenge the top-ranked Bulldogs, and Pepperdine will have the ball first tonight with their great senior point guard, Sean just talked about him, Colby Ross, with the ball in his hands. And a quick release three, left side. That is a beautiful beginning. Kessler Edwards knocks down the first shot for Pepperdine.
Yeah, they need to get him going because offensively he can score in bunches. He dropped 37 a couple weeks back against Pacific. If they have a chance to win tonight, Kessler Edwards is going to have to break 20, 25 points.
Drew Timme, who had a big game against Pepperdine, had his shot blocked down low, so the Waves get a stop. And Colby Ross, quick in transition, flipped one up, and it just did not go down.
One of the keys for Pepperdine, obviously, is to try to take Gonzaga out of transition. One of the best ways you can do that is by scoring the basketball. You know, so often they talk about defensive transition. When your opponent has to take the ball out of the net, that innately will give you at least 2 or 3 steps in order to get back. And I think that's going to be a point of emphasis tonight for Pepperdine. Work the offense, get to the second or third side, try to find good quality shots.
Corey Kispert, top scorer in the WCC, just having an awesome senior year at the free throw line for his first point of the night. Head coach Mark Few, 22nd year as a Gonzaga head coach, just an incredible record. 615 wins, all as the head coach of the Zags.
There's not much he hasn't accomplished in this game. And clearly the one thing everybody's going to be focused on this year is the fact that this team is off to as good as a start that it is, with a legitimate chance to bring its first national championship banner to Spokane.
That's the one thing that the Zags haven't accomplished under Mark Few. They've literally done everything else. They've been to 2 Sweet 16s. Just in the last 5 years, they've been to 2 Sweet 16s, 2 Elite Eights, and a national championship game where they nearly got that done. Shot missed for Pepperdine, so here come the Zags. That extra pass to Kispert for 3. They're going to call a push-off on Anton Watson underneath. Well, meanwhile, Lorenzo Romar, so accomplished in his own right. This is his 6th year overall at Pepperdine. That is a little misleading. One of his early head coaching stops, then went on to big things at a couple other places, including 15 years as the head coach at Washington, back in Malibu, and he has helped turn this program around. Pepperdine, a really good, talented team with a couple pro players, including this guy, Colby Ross, with the left hand.
And Dave, that's what we were talking about in the open, the ability to find a seam and finish over the top in traffic.
Suggs 3, no. Rebound for Pepperdine. And Ross, there's that great look ahead for the dunk in transition.
Take your opportunities when you have it. You cannot play slow in your offense. You have to be able to get layups when the defense is not set against Gonzaga, because the Zags after the last couple of games have been pretty solid at the defensive end.
Wow, Drew Timme just muscled his way to where all he had to do was flip the ball in. That was easy.
Yeah, it was easy for him at the start of the second half of that game up in Spokane as well, partner. And I think you should get a heavy dosage of Drew Timme early in this one.
He just committed a reach-in foul, I believe.
Dave, not the replay of the open in which we're talking about, but see the way he's able to shield and use his upper body strength and extend out with his offhand, and then a beautiful pass in transition and a great finish. But Colby Ross has done so many things so well over the course of his career, already the all-time leader in scoring as well as assists at Pepperdine. But that's not even close to the history he'll make if he can get to 6 points this afternoon, this evening.
I think he will. An offensive tap back from Chukwuka, who had the dunk in transition. Now gets a touchdown low against Kispert. Kessler Edwards' little floater is good.
Such a high, soft release on that. He gets his feet set, and the release is so high. Very difficult to block Kessler Edwards' shot.
So Pepperdine's got a 5-point lead. Gonzaga has hardly trailed at all in West Coast Conference play this year. Good look, but the miss. Chukwuka with the rebound. Ross kind of got shoved by Suggs. That was good physical defense from Jalen Suggs, but Pepperdine finds a way to save the ball. Along the baseline, almost out of bounds, and then a tough pass. Ross finishes with the left hand again.
Yeah, going straight into the body of the potential shot blocker, bounces him off you, creates enough space to finish.
Kispert open for 3.
What a great job by Corey Kispert to get his feet set and knock it down.
One basket away, Colby Ross, from 2,000 points for his career. This could be it, and it is 2,000 in the great career of Colby Ross. There have not been many in the history of college hoops who've reached that milestone. Congratulations, Colby Ross. He didn't wait long, did he, tonight?
No, he came out with a sense of purpose. And Dave, you said not many. How about only 8 players in the history of college basketball have 2,000 career points, 750 plus assists, and 400 rebounds. Man, Colby Ross has been sensational in Malibu, and he's been sensational at the start of this one.
Well, ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get it done, and in part by the Chicken Slinger for just $2.49 only at Sonic. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham, Malibu, the site. Pepperdine at home against the #1 ranked team in the country, Gonzaga. Great start for the Waves, and particularly for their senior point guard.
Colby Ross just coming out and asserting himself in this game. The recipe for an upset means that your stars have to play like stars. So far, he's been sensational. 3 of 4 shooting from the floor. He's got 2 assists already, 6 points. And as we mentioned, historic numbers in the college basketball game when you think of only 8 other players have numbers that you see on the left-hand side of your screen that Colby Ross has been able to accumulate over the course of his time in Malibu.
A kid who grew up in Aurora, Colorado, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in Colorado, came to Malibu to play in the WCC and has stuck around for all 4 years. Cedric Altman, who made the shot before the break with a foul, completes the 3-point play. There were tons of programs who tried to get Colby Ross to transfer. He wanted to stay with Lorenzo Romar and see what this Waves team could accomplish. Nice bounce pass, and Watson finishes underneath for Gonzaga.
Yeah, just create some space and a nice little small window dump down. The easiest basket we've seen around the hoop for Gonzaga so far in this game. The concern, though, is you got to figure out a way to get stops and sustain stops at this end of the floor if you're Gonzaga.
John D. Smith gave it up. Chukwuka gets it on the low block. Altman almost traveled. Late clock, Ross with the ball in his hands, and that one is thrown away out of bounds. That's a Pepperdine turnover.
Not a turnover that's going to hurt you too much, though, because it's a dead ball turnover. It allows you to still get back and set up your defense. This Pepperdine team is interesting. They're 7-7, 3-2 in conference play, Dave. But that record is not indicated. It does not indicate the talent level that this team has, nor how disjointed and injuries and COVID things that went on in this program that really hindered their growth and ability to kind of find a rhythm early in the season.
Yeah, and some of the losses they took are just crushing their computer numbers, their metrics, because they had a few bad performances when they were missing some key pieces. This is a way better team, I think, than those metrics would indicate. Ross, fadeaway baseline, tough shot. And the ball tapped out to Ayayi. 2-on-1 for the Zags. Suggs in transition, offensive foul.
Great job in defensive transition by Altman to get his feet set underneath him. And that's a 2-on-1 situation. Jalen Suggs jump stop, drop it down, and allow Ayayi to finish. But you go straight into the defensive player. It's an easy call.
Yeah, I kept waiting for him to give the ball back. Never did. Turned it over. Third turnover for the Zags in these first few minutes. And there Suggs steals one away. Jalen Suggs, that's the defense that you highlighted right at the top.
You've got to be dangerous. It's got to be awareness of where he is, because he can jump that passing lane. His anticipation skills at the defensive end amongst some of the best we have in college basketball this year.
Mark Pope, BYU's head coach, told us he's Deion Sanders back there. He's just looking to intercept the ball.
I like that. I remember when Deion Sanders came to the 49ers. I was a big fan of that move.
Colby Ross into the corner. That's a three, and it is way short for John D. Smith. He's been shooting the ball pretty well here lately. Joel Ayayi had the first triple-double in Gonzaga history earlier this season, not that long ago. Maybe the fourth option on this Gonzaga team, but one of the better players in college basketball. That was a good pass. The three is in and out. Now
Colby Ross has got to be
turnover.
careful. Yeah, that was a force, and you don't want to force it and give extra possessions away.
Suggs had it tapped away somehow. Was able to find Kispert. A little shot fake. Suggs draws a foul, and then well after the whistle, there was some contact. Suggs hit the floor. Looks like he's okay.
Great job. Active hands. Great vision. Jalen Suggs able to finish. It atones for that charge when you come right back down and can create a turnover on your next possession.
I think so. Such a big reason why, Sean, he was one of the top recruits in the country and is considered one of the very top draft prospects for the next level. That defensive piece for Jalen Suggs, huge part of who he is. They left Watson open, dared him to shoot it, so he said, okay.
You want to talk about a player that we don't talk enough about? How about Anton Watson? All he's done in the last 5 games inside the three-point line, Dave, is make 86% of his shots. 86%. And we don't even talk about him.
Yeah, if Ayayi's the fourth option, what's Watson? About the 7th. He grabs a rebound here.
And yet he's already had a game this year where he had over 20 points. That was up against Portland.
Great pass. Ayayi lays it in.
Ayayi with the
Cook.
Yeah. Ayayi, though, with the ball movement away from the ball, cutting. But Cook, just great awareness to drop that one down.
Another underrated Zags player who sometimes has a hard time even finding minutes on the floor. A little up and under move, and Chukwuka had his shot partially blocked by Watson. Gonzaga down just one. Zags are on the run. Nembhard tried to leave it for Watson and went off his shin. Ross, pull-up three in transition. Too strong. Game's gotten a little ugly the last couple minutes. They call that a turnover.
Well, when you move without the ball, good things happen. But when you have unselfish players, it makes it a thing of beauty to watch. It's now just a one-point game.
8-0 run for the number 1 Zags. They're down by 1 at Pepperdine, 16-15. Sean Farnham, what stood out today? Headlines from this Saturday in college hoops.
Well, first of all, I think it starts with Oklahoma. Their 3rd straight win over a top 10 opponent. They knocked off Alabama, and they did it shorthanded. No Austin Reeves. Davion Harmon has averaged 18 points per contest over the last 5. He's been sensational for Oklahoma. He was great again today. How about Texas Tech? Rallying for a 76-71 win. And when I say rallying, Dave, they were down 6 with 59 seconds left to go, and it was a 12-0 run. Mac McClung with a huge three-pointer, a deflection on the press, TJ Shannon able to score, and then Missouri with the 30-30 vision in their win against TCU. And what I mean by that, Pinson and Tillman, 30 points apiece, only the 3rd time in the last 25 years that the SEC teammates got 30 points in a game. Baylor, they remain perfect, and they did it with great balance today against Auburn. 5 Bears in double figures. Maceo Teague was one of them. He was outstanding.
Lots going on across the college hoops landscape tonight, including the game before us. Tennessee really took it to Kansas. That was a nifty play, and then Kessler Edwards somehow missed that shot.
But was it needed? Couldn't he have caught the ball and still had time to finish? I think he could have, and I think it's a missed opportunity.
I do too. Aaron Cook, meanwhile, makes that mistake pay. Zags 10-0 run, back up by 1. Here's Edwards' 3. Crashing the glass. Robbie Heath, but he commits a foul.
Let's take in the psyche a little bit here. It's been almost 5 minutes without scoring for Pepperdine. You've got 3 turnovers during that period of time. You're 0 for 7 from the floor. You have to understand you had a 9-point lead. And when you see how talented this offense is, you have to understand they're going to make a run. Now what you have to do is settle yourself back down and not panic just because Gonzaga has stormed back and taken the lead.
Little crossover move to Kispert, just in and out. Timmy got the offensive rebound. He'll go to the free throw line. That's a shooting foul.
And true Timmy. Just so strong and puts himself in the right position time and time again.
We have a slightly different headband look, it seems to me, for Drew Timme tonight. By the way, our ACC Big 12 Big Monday games on ESPN and the app will start with Duke coming off maybe their best game of the year today against Miami. That's at 7 Eastern. And then in the Big 12, those Sooners that Sean was talking about, chance for another top 10 win against Texas Tech with the wild comeback win against LSU today, Monday at 9 Eastern on ESPN and also on the app.
Big 12 has become can't-miss television this year. It's so good year in and year out. This year, they're especially unique.
That's a push-off foul against Pepperdine. That'll go as another Waves turnover. Colby Ross can't believe it. Big 12, Sean, is good teams. It's good teams and entertaining styles and close games. So that's a pretty good formula, I would say.
How about the fact that you look at Oklahoma today, Dave, and they held that Alabama team to 20 points below their season average.
Yeah.
Lon Kruger's team got after it defensively without their leading scorer. A tremendous effort.
Yeah, really great win for the Sooners. Andrew Nembhard and Gonzaga up by 2 on an 11-0 run. Kispert catch and shoot 3. That's beautiful.
They turn it on, don't they, Dave?
They do.
I mean, it's like everything that Pepperdine wanted to get early, they got. And you're sitting there going, man, they look good. Colby Ross is playing with great energy, great purpose. Kessler Edwards knocks down a 3 on the first possession. And it's just quietly a 14-0 run. Corey Kispert drilling 3s on the outside. Their size just causing so many issues underneath for Pepperdine.
Yeah, you heard the sounds in the background. Gonzaga was convinced that was a turnover, but instead they call a foul against the Zags. So Pepperdine will keep the ball.
Suggs will come out. It's his second personal foul on Suggs. He kind of wrapped up a little bit there. He had his hands on him.
So Jalen Suggs, I'm sure disappointed, has to take a seat. Daryl Polk, not much of a scorer, was open for 3. Nembhard to Cook, who's given the Zags a huge boost since he's come in this game. Timeout, Lorenzo Romar. Big Gonzaga run. They're up 23-16 in Malibu. What a run for the number one ranked team in the country. 16-0 run. Gonzaga now up 23-16, even with their star freshman point guard Jalen Suggs on the bench with 2 fouls, averaging 14 points a game. 3-point shooting may be, Sean, a little uneven for the super talented freshman, but the rebounding numbers, the passing, especially to me, that defense that you've highlighted, the all-around package is there for Jalen Suggs.
Yeah, the threes have to continue to improve. Now, he's made 4 out of his last 8. But that was after making 3 of the previous 16. And so maybe he's starting to find his flow and his rhythm from beyond the arc. He's ultra talented, and he'll be a top 5 pick, guaranteed.
Yeah. No Kobe Ross on the floor at the moment for Pepperdine. Where's the offense going to come from? Polk fade away. Good. They needed that bad.
They do need it bad. Now, he had 7 points in 9 minutes in the first meeting, so maybe he's a player that feels like he could have some confidence in replacing Colby Ross and making positive plays for Pepperdine.
Yeah, maybe so. Young Jan Zedek underneath the basket, the son of George Zedek, great UCLA Bruins player, won a national championship. Jan, who is a talented young guy for Pepperdine, commits a foul. Zedek's going to come off the floor, and they'll put Cedric Allman in. So a smaller lineup now for Pepperdine. Yeah, right back to Drew Timme, who hesitates, scores with the foul.
Do you know how good that is? Do you know how good that is to execute on an out-of-bounds underneath? Play designed for Timme, and these are the wrinkles that Gonzaga puts in. So 9 times out of 10, you go to shoot-arounds, and we're listening to coaches, hey, every out-of-bounds play, they're looking to get Kispert the ball. They want to get Kispert a shot. That was designed for Drew Timme. They had false action going away for Corey Kispert. Great job and great execution.
You see those numbers for Timme last 5 games. They're really, really good. They aren't that far off his season numbers overall. I mean, he's just had a great year. Kessler Edwards, by far the number 1 option on the floor right now for Pepperdine. He traveled, though.
And what that is awareness defensively. With no Colby Ross out on the floor, you can shrink. You can shrink off of other players and have a Kessler Edwards awareness. And he went on that drive. They pinched in off the wing, and he wasn't ready to have balance in his feet underneath him.
Great look. Nembhard down low to Timme, who draws another foul. It is kind of nice, isn't it? Jalen Suggs, one of arguably the most talented player in college basketball, goes to the bench with 2 fouls. So here comes Andrew Nembhard, who started 67 games in 2 years at Florida. Was a great player in the SEC. He comes off Gonzaga's bench.
And dropped 10 dimes last time out against San Diego. I mean, he had best assist total that he's had in a single game, and he just continues to understand this offense and make an impact. I think his eligibility, to me, in my mind, took this backcourt to that next level because it gave flexibility to move Suggs off the ball some and play them together. Or if one of them gets in foul trouble, you can go to Nembhard, and he stabilizes your offense and keeps it at that elite level.
I mean, it's very easy to imagine a scenario. Okay, it's the Final Four. It's the Zags and Baylor going head-to-head, and somebody gets in foul trouble, and you're right. I mean, how huge is that extra depth for Gonzaga? What did Mark Few say to us about Nembhard? Think about all the great players he's had. The best ball screen passer he's ever had at Gonzaga, Andrew Nembhard. Watson spin move, missed the layup. He doesn't miss many of those. All the way, and a foul. Robbie Heath draws the foul. And that'll take us to a timeout. Gonzaga playing like number 1 these last few minutes. The lead is up to 10. Well, Gonzaga, not just offense, a tough guy team this year. Number 1 team in the country, 10-point lead over Pepperdine. A team that I think would make the late John Chaney very proud, Sean Farnham. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham with you. It was a sad week for college basketball. One of the all-time greats, age 89, the longtime head coach at Temple. We lost John Chaney a couple days ago, and everybody in college basketball has been thinking about the coach these last 48 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing in this year that we've lost John Thompson, John Chaney. We talk so much about diversity in hiring and social justice. But to me, I think talking to Mark Few, he brought up scheduling. And John Chaney, for people that don't remember, he scheduled and had this moniker of anyone, anytime, anywhere. And they took to multiple Elite Eights at Temple, a non-Power 5 traditional conference, making great runs in the NCAA tournament. And Mark Few said, hey, look, some of that is part of the blueprint of, like, you can do that elsewhere. And Gonzaga has had that mindset. And you look at this year's non-conference schedule, like a prime example of, hey, we're willing to play anyone, anywhere that we can. But we lost an icon in John Chaney, a great teacher, not just of the game and the matchup zone, but a great teacher in life, too. He stood up to the NCAA, wasn't afraid to challenge them about academic standards and fight for his student athletes. And just a great, great man.
He will be missed. Aaron Cook, meanwhile, having a terrific first half. The grad transfer from Southern Illinois, who gets lost on this Gonzaga team sometimes, but man, is he playing well in this game. The run has grown. Ohia Obioha throws one up off the glass. It goes down.
It's a 24-5 run right now for Gonzaga. They have taken over this game, and they're doing it because they're sharing the basketball, Dave. They've got 8 assists on 11 made field goals.
Cook's going to try it again. Hits another three. Aaron Cook.
You and I talk about it, Dave, is that there will be a game this year that Aaron Cook gets 20-plus points, and this might be it. I mean, he's that good of a transfer. And if Nembhard wasn't eligible, this team would still be number one because Cook is that talented.
And there he goes, and he finishes with the left hand. Aaron Cook has taken over this game.
You got to love it. You got to feel good for a guy that has sacrificed, has accepted his role, doesn't seem to mind at all. He wants to win a national championship. And on the road with Suggs out with foul trouble, Aaron Cook, let him know. Making plays in a big, big way. He's 5 for 5 from the field. He's got assists. He's making plays for others and defensively being extremely active.
Wow, what an eye-opener, Aaron Cook. I mean, look, he averages 4 points a game, and most of that is just purely a product of playing time. He's getting a little extra playing time in this first half with Jalen Suggs in foul trouble. 5 for 5 from the field. He's got 12.
Gotta love that. And again, this kid transferred from Southern Illinois, where he averaged 15 points per game, Dave. I mean, he's a very, very good basketball player. To your point, it has a lot to do with minutes versus anything else for why he's not having larger numbers. And so what do? You transfer, you get a 4.0 in the fall. You don't allow maybe a lack of minutes or frustration of not being able to have the ball in your hands. Just go get a 4.0.
Dean's list wasn't good enough. He wanted to be on the president's list. And congratulations to Aaron Cook, who is having a huge first half. Altman 3, good.
That was much needed for Pepperdine.
Cook's season high with the Zags before this game had been 9. Man, he is feeling it right now. In and out, no good that time. Here come the waves.
Let it
fly. I have no problem with that. The floater is no good. Cook, a little drop back for Kispert. Nembhard, I think, was fouled. He was. Well, we were talking about the Big 12 and how great it's been. Maybe the game of the year in the Big 12 is coming up on Tuesday. Super Tuesday matchup right here on ESPN on the app. Number 2 Baylor, number 5 Texas. They'll play it in Austin. It's their only meeting in the regular season. Sean, is this the biggest hurdle for Baylor to clear for an undefeated regular season?
The key is Texas being at full strength. If Texas at full strength, Sims, Ramey in particular are back, then yes, you would say that this is going to be their biggest test. I've been impressed with Texas all year long. Even the loss that they had against Villanova showed me a little bit more about that team. Their guard play has been a lot more consistent. And Andrew Jones is one of the best stories in college basketball.
Nembhard steals one away, and then he switched to the left hand. Good Lord, Gonzaga's defense is creating transition opportunities over and over again.
When you paused on the good, I was wondering where you were going with it.
Yeah. Well, I had a few options. I chose what I thought was a pretty gentle one.
Yes, very good.
Altman in the lane scores. So Cedric Altman giving Pepperdine a little boost. Timmy traveled.
I don't think he liked that call.
No, I don't think so either.
Look, here's the thing that people have to start understanding too, is we talk about the balance of Baylor, right? They're in the top 10 in KenPom in efficiency at the defense and offensive end of the floor. We don't say that about Gonzaga. Do you know where their defensive efficiency currently ranks? 11.
Was it 12? I was going to say
11.
12. It's 11 now.
So let's not act like they can't get after you at the defensive end of the floor, and they're not doing some really good things down there as well.
Well, they helped force an extra pass. The ball was down low. I thought it was going to be a layup. Instead, it turns into a 3-second violation and a Pepperdine turnover.
A good opportunity to coach. Lorenzo Romar does such a good job fostering relationships with his players. It's a big part of why he's had so much success every stop that he's had.
Yayi down low to Drew Timme. Spin move. Left hand, no good. Pepperdine rebound. Kessler Edwards spins and scores.
See, I think keep playing through Edwards here, and I like him more on the block than I do on the perimeter in this game because of his ability to shoot over the top. It's not like Gonzaga has great length that can block a ton of shots in the paint.
Zidek gave Kispert just a little bit of room, and Pepperdine pays for it.
That's not a good play on Corey Kispert. You cannot give him any space.
Smith, 3 for the answer. Too strong. Long rebound, though. Pepperdine has it. Altman hung in the air, missed the shot. Now here come the Zags. Ayayi pull-up 3. Short.
That was actually a good job faking, stepping to the ball, and then dropping back by Colby Ross on that weak side to stay with Corey Kispert.
Ross thought he got fouled, and I guess he did. After the shot, Colby Ross is hurting a little bit. So hopefully he's all right. Huge part of the history of the Pepperdine Waves in their basketball program. Yeah, that was a scene today in Malibu. For those of you who are getting ready for a big snowstorm, sorry.
Well, you have to look at my minutes that I played over the course of my career, Crispin, and some people might say I did neither. But no, look, you had to get down and defend. That's the only thing I could do at UCLA. Set some screens and get down and defend possession by possession. I always had to be there in help side position.
I saw it firsthand. I saw you take some charges.
Yeah, you also saw the Maples Massacre. Let's not bring that one up, okay?
I did. It's one of my favorite sports memories. That was a good one.
48-point loss for UCLA on the farm at Stanford, and you were on the call of that game, Mr. Fleming.
As a student, I was pretty young back then, but yes, I was. I'll never forget that night. Colby Ross, some history tonight for Pepperdine. Knocks down a couple free throws out of the timeout. So Pepperdine, with all the bad that has happened since the first few minutes of the game. I mean, Gonzaga's been on a 36-12 run. They're in the game. They're only down 13. Emhart got to that elbow area, then got cut off. They want to touch for Timme. I think they love that matchup. He just blew right by Zidek.
He's too quick. He's too quick. And it's just a great job by Mark Few and this coaching staff to isolate Drew Timme. Again, so often we see, look at where's Kispert, where's everybody going? Mark Few is good at finding a matchup they feel like they can exploit, and they go after it.
Yeah, and Zidek struggling in this game. He just had the ball picked right from him. Ayayi in the corner. Timme gives it right back to Ayayi. What an assist from the big man.
So you know you gotta show and help on Zidek because he can't keep Timme from quickly getting by him. So you turn and look at the ball, and Ayayi immediately sees that and cuts.
So good. That two-man game with those two is just tremendous. We've seen a couple examples of it. Ross faked the 3 and shoots the 2. No. Ayayi's a good rebounder for a guard. Oh, what a great defensive play by Altman. That was going to be a transition bucket, I thought, for the Zags. And Altman maybe got undercut. No whistle. Here comes Gonzaga. 3-on-2. Kispert open 3. No. He didn't miss many of those. It was 16-7 Pepperdine in this game. Zedick, no good on the three. Now a whistle and a timeout for Gonzaga.
Dave, I want to go back a couple possessions ago because you mentioned when you start and you look at the ball. Now look, your defensive player's watching. Ayayi cuts right by him. That's not a play. That's not something Mark Few called. That is just understanding how to play. So many players in college basketball don't know really how to play. They run plays, they make cuts, they stay inside the system. But what impresses me about Gonzaga this year is Mark Few saying, hey guys, improvise, feel the game, make the right cut, make the right play. And more often than not, they do.
Well, tonight when we're finished from Malibu, we'll make the transition from the beach to the snow. It is the X Games. Our coverage continues from Aspen. Now, Aspen's a pretty beautiful place. Women's snowboard super pipe and a men's ski big air encore.
And by the way, I could confirm that that's not Tim Ward, the women's soccer coach at Pepperdine, although if he didn't have his first game today, he would have been out there. Soccer just getting underway for the WCC. Tim Ward, 27 years coaching at Pepperdine. He's done a heck of a job with the women's soccer program.
Congratulations, Coach. I learned a little something there.
He likes to surf a lot.
Now, those waves, for me up here in Northern California, our waves, especially this time of year, a little bigger than that. Nice look down low, and they're calling an offensive foul. A push-off on Ayayi, who's asking for a flop, I think.
I don't know. It's tough to see from that angle whether or not he extended out his elbow. But it was definitely sold well.
It was a good sales job. It really was. Final minute of this first half. Colby Ross and the Waves trying to cut down a 17-point lead, and it rattled home for Jadi Smith.
You know, what a first half for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. They're almost on pace for 100. They're shooting 61% on the road.
With one of their stars on the bench for most of the first half in foul trouble, Jalen Suggs.
Listen, Barrett Henderson was open there, but he's the media relations guy taking pictures laying on the floor. So I'm not sure you want to pass it to Barrett. Now, Eric Cook's done a lot of good things in the first half. That's one we'd probably take back.
Apparently the ball did get tipped, though. I didn't see that from San Francisco. So the ball got tipped. Gonzaga kept it. Nemhard, what a move.
I can't believe you didn't see that from San Francisco, Dave.
I was squinting. I was looking really hard. I think Lorenzo Romar, who's right there on the sideline, was saying the same thing. Really? That pass got tipped? Gonzaga took advantage of the break. Pepperdine's going to hold for the final look at this first half. Colby Ross's brilliant start to this game feels like a long time ago. Edwards pull-up jumper is good. There is time on the clock. Gonzaga actually gets a decent look from Steph Curry range. Kispert came up a little bit short, and the buzzer sounds. Suggs in foul trouble. Didn't matter, did it, Sean?
It didn't. Aaron Cook was absolutely fantastic in the first 20 minutes.
Kevin Connors, John Crispin in studio, standing by. 49-34, Gonzaga leads. Welcome back to Saturday Showcase, presented by 5 Hour Energy from Malibu, California, the campus of Pepperdine, where the Waves are hosting a #1 ranked team for the second time in their history, and it didn't go so well in the first half for Pepperdine. 49-34, that's the halftime lead for the #1 Zags. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham back with you. And Sean, I, for one, am excited we get to talk about somebody other than these big stars that we usually focus on for the Zags, because Aaron Cook, who is off the radar often for Gonzaga, had a terrific first half.
Oh, there's no question that he was the star of the first half. And I would say this, if he had a lot of playing time all season long, he might be a star for the Gonzaga Bulldogs. He's that talented, but he played with great passion and great heart. The game changed when he took the floor. He was assertive from the jump. He was able to get his feet set underneath him, knock down a shot, and then the defensive end of the floor, able to jump the passing lane and finish. A little emphasis and a little flex. I've been working on my tries as well. I just don't look like that. Aaron Cook was sensational in the first half. 12 points, 5 of 6 shooting. And as you mentioned, his season high for Gonzaga was just 9. So he's already eclipsed that in the first 20 minutes.
Well, I just say he's just such a terrifically unselfish player who has put his personal stats and minutes and accolades sort of on the back burner while his teammates get a lot of those things. Drew Timme and Gonzaga with the ball to start the second half, and Timme scores right in the face of Victor Ohio-Obioha.
There is no answer on Pepperdine's roster for Drew Timme. And that first possession of this half looked a lot like the first possession of the second half up in Spokane.
So true. He dominated that second half. And Pepperdine, remember in that game, they challenged Gonzaga in the first half, like they did at least for part of this game tonight in Malibu. Andrew Nembhard is on the floor to begin the half for Gonzaga, and Nembhard made another great pass to Timme, who lays it in.
Do you know what time it is? It's Timme time. I mean, he is just so much fun to watch. He just puts himself in the right position. He's not this elite level athlete that's elevating up and dunking over the top of people, but he just gets his defensive player on his shoulder and utilizes his skill set so well.
And he also just stuffed one on the defensive end there. Nembhard, they'll call a foul against Pepperdine. I think Timme got hit right in the throat area.
And they're going to go take a look at this. Anytime, but he's like, Timme smiles a little bit. So we'll see whether or not it was acting or if he, just definitely brought attention to it. Certainly Kessler made contact, worthy of a foul. As he goes through there. Yeah, I mean, that's a foul. I don't think there's a lot more than that. I think it was mainly forearm, and then the elbow was mainly on the shoulder, if I'm not mistaken, Dave. Your thoughts?
I would agree with you. You and I had a play last week when BYU was playing Pepperdine in Provo where it looked like the Pepperdine player, I think it was Kendall Munson, if memory serves, sort of saw and lined up and delivered an elbow with his eyes making contact with the opponent. Here, there wasn't any of that. So I'm with you. That's a foul, and that's it. Drew Timme seems to be just fine, by the way.
Yeah.
He's dancing while they talk about whether this is a flagrant one or not. Pepperdine, we've talked about their basketball history, and it really is tremendous. Dennis Johnson, who I think is one of the all-time underrated players in hoops history, at college level, NBA level, was a great guard for Pepperdine. 1975, 1976, all-around player, one of the better defensive players maybe in NBA history. Just one of many who have come through Malibu. Look at the crowd in the background for the Waves, sort of their heyday. Lorenzo Romar, I mean, look, that it was a different time in college hoops, Sean, back then, but I think Lorenzo, who grew up in Los Angeles, who's been a head coach 2 different times at Pepperdine, knows that history. I think he really believes strongly in the ability of Pepperdine to keep building its program and become one of the top-tier teams on the West Coast.
I will tell you, if that's going to become a reality, facilities need to be upgraded. And I know the plans are put into place, but the funding needs to come together to help this program out. Firestone feel this. I was an assistant coach at Pepperdine. So I've sat on that bench, and that was during a year, by the way, that they had just come off of ending Coach Bob Knight's career at Indiana and advanced in the NCAA tournament. And that was my senior year of college. I got hired right after that and coached the very next season there. The passion that the student body had for the basketball team at that time was really strong. It was Pepperdine and Gonzaga at the top of the conference every single year. And a new facility upgrade would be huge as far as recruiting and just being able to kind of show off everything that's so great about Pepperdine and Malibu. Not that you have to really force the sell on Malibu, by the way.
I agree. We just show them our telecasts and a few of these beach shots and the waves and the surfing and whatnot. Well, all right, so we dug through the archives. We didn't have to go back that long. This is an ancient history, but there's my friend and partner, Sean Farnham. Do you still have that tie, Sean?
No, that tie did not make the transition from 2001 all the way back to now 2021. But that was a great team. Brennan Armstrong was a really, really good player. Yes, there's my tie. Jan Van Bredikoff was a great coach as far as changing in different defenses. Offensively that year, we were running the triangle. Spent some time with Tex Winter to put that into place. Gib Arnold, who was a great assistant coach, along with Benji Taylor. Glenn McGowan was sitting there in the front row. A lot of really talented Pepperdine Waves, and loved the opportunity to be a Division I assistant coach at that time. Just right out of college, too.
And part of what Lorenzo's talked about with the program is he grew up in Compton, so that's, it's maybe, 15 miles or something from the Malibu campus. But there's so many great high school hoops players in L.A., including Bird Averett, who just passed away. We were sad to learn just a few weeks ago. Leading scorer in college basketball his senior year at Pepperdine. He was a lefty. Lorenzo was a lefty. When he was 13 years old, he came to campus to watch Bird Averett play. And I think Lorenzo feels like that connection with the city of L.A., he can get some really good players. And maybe the facilities are the missing piece of the puzzle, but he can get them to Malibu to come play for him.
Listen, you bring somebody on a recruiting trip to Malibu, it's not hard to convince them to stay. Okay? I mean, the school does overlook the Pacific Ocean.
It does. It does. Those aren't fake shots we're showing you. Kessler Edwards, long two, too strong.
Like you do a game at Fordham, and they say in the shadows of New York City. It's really not in Manhattan, it's really not.
The shadows are long.
Yeah. You say, hey, welcome to Pepperdine here in Malibu, California. You know where you're located? In Malibu. That's actually where you're at. You go down the road, and there's celebrities, there's stars, there's beaches, there's rocks, there's dolphins swimming by the... It's not a hard sell.
No, that's the scene in the front yard of the campus. By the way, the only person in history who's ever been to Malibu and absolutely hated it is Jalen Suggs, because he's back on the bench with 4 fouls. This is his first time playing on Pepperdine's campus. Jalen Suggs. I mean, you figure a kid from Minnesota would be dying to get to the beach and see what it looks like, but he has 2 points and just hasn't been able to stay on the court. Yeah, he stepped out of bounds.
Good job defensively, walling up down in the post, not allowing Drew Timme to have space to operate. I go back, I think about more guys from that team that I was coaching. Kelvin Gibbs was outstanding member of that team. Really great post player. Said Stewart, the all-time leader in blocks in Pepperdine. The Pepperdine's had a rich basketball tradition.
They have. Anton Watson run out, and that one knocked out of bounds. Jim Herrick, head coach, had a great run at Pepperdine with a lot of good players. We may talk about Coach Herrick as we go along with our telecast tonight, but Pepperdine was really, before Gonzaga emerged in these last couple decades, I would say Pepperdine was the power. USF had their long run with great history in the West Coast Conference, but sort of bridging the USF era and Gonzaga. Yeah, LMU had their great teams, you're right.
Yeah, the conference was really different back then in 2000. Like St. Mary's was the basement of the WCC at the time, and it's just a testament to Randy Bennett and what he's been able to accomplish at St. Mary's to elevate that program. And now obviously bringing in BYU, you're bringing in a program that has a 20,000 seat home facility, all the funding in the world, and it's been a big improvement for the West Coast Conference to have now Mark Pope and the Cougars be part of the West Coast Conference.
It's a good league this year. It's a deeper league than it has been. Watson shoots a rare 3. Okay, he showed us why he didn't shoot many of those. Kispert, they count the basket and a foul.
Just like Coach Few drew it up after the air ball, but Kispert gets the ball in his hands, goes right through, and able to finish. So strong. I mean, that's one of the things that underrated a little bit about Corey Kispert is his strength.
Totally agree. He's a big, strong kid. That was almost like a beach volleyball play. He kind of set that one up off the glass and it went down.
A lot of good volleyball players have gone to Pepperdine too, by the way.
Correct.
Shocking. I'm sure you're
I know.
You had no idea.
America had no clue. Kobe Ross almost stolen away by Iai. All right, we're talking Pepperdine history. How about the great Doug Christie? He looked the part, didn't he? Doug Christie was such a tremendous athlete, two-time West Coast Conference Player of the Year, 91-92.
He's a broadcaster for the Sacramento Kings.
He is, after his long, distinguished NBA playing career. He is a color analyst for the Kings telecast. With our friend Mark Jones, Chukwuka hits the three. The big man, that's one feature of this Pepperdine team. Their big men shoot often just as well from the outside, sometimes even better than their guards.
Yeah, space the floor, a lot of pick and pop.
Timmy scores off the glass.
And that's one of those, back in the day when we play, you know what you call that? Weight room. Just the weight room. Like, you got to get in the weight room if you're going to stop Drew Timme, and you're not stopping him tonight.
No. 6 of 8 shooting, 16 more points. Colby Ross is fouled. And that will take us to a timeout. Gonzaga is up the lead to 20. Number 1 team in the country, leading Pepperdine 60-40. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by the Wacky Pack Kids Meal, only at Sonic. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by the Wacky Pack Kids Meal, only at Sonic. Wacky kids out of the Pacific Ocean, just down from the Pepperdine campus. Waves trailing Gonzaga 60-40. Mike Schmitz is with us, which is awesome. Again, we had Mike with us on our WCC telecast a couple weeks ago. He was scouting up at the Bay Area in Moraga. Now he's down in LA, so he popped over to Malibu to watch this game. Mike, welcome.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, always good to chat with you, get your opinion on NBA draft stuff. You're scouting a Gonzaga team that's full of prospects. Mike, I think the last time we talked to you, we didn't have enough time to ask you about Drew Timme. Drew Timme's having another good game against Pepperdine. He had a huge game against the Waves the first time they met. Maybe he doesn't get quite the attention that Suggs and even Kispert get from the NBA guys. What's your opinion on Drew Timme and his future at that level?
Yeah, he definitely has a chance. You know, he's still 20 years old. He's been incredibly productive, and he picked a good game to really show out because there's at least a dozen NBA scouts in the building. But when he catches 15 feet and in, it's an automatic bucket. I think for him, it's about continuing to modernize his game, step out, shoot the three ball a little bit more, continue to evolve as a facilitator because defensively he's not great, but again, totally dominant at this level and certainly has a chance as he continues to progress.
All right, before we get into like Jalen Suggs and the Corey Kispert talk again, from Pepperdine's perspective, we saw Colby Ross tonight become only the 8th player to have 2,000 career points, 750-plus assists, 400-plus rebounds. Kessler Edwards, he's got great length and a high release on his shot. Take me through those two guys and what you think they could potentially be in the pro landscape, whether in the United States or over in Europe.
Yeah, Kessler is certainly an NBA prospect. You know, he's incredibly young for his age. He shoots it at a high clip. He's kind of in that 3-and-D combo forward mold, just at 6'8" with long arms. He's improved his motor, his toughness over the years. Still needs to improve his ball skills, his ability to kind of read and react as a playmaker. But I think next season, you know, he really has a chance to hear his name called, potentially even in the first round. And then Colby, he's had a tremendous career. You can see him pushing in transition. I mean, he's aggressive. He's not afraid of contact at all. He makes everyone around him better. Hasn't had a great year this year in terms of efficiency. His three-point percentage dipped a little bit, but might have to prove himself in Europe first before potentially making it to the NBA, but still has had an incredible career and supremely skilled at the point guard spot.
Mike Schmitz, ESPN NBA draft analyst, also taking my job as play-by-play man during the fast break point. Sean, go ahead.
Okay, so let's go to the Gonzaga Bulldogs now. We talked about them a couple weeks ago. I know you spent a lot of time around Evan Mobley lately. So when you're looking at the top of your draft board, has anything shifted or changed in your top 3 or 4?
nothing's changed so far. I think just from watching and talking to NBA scouts a little bit more, you see Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley kind of in the top two. You know, we have Cade number one. He put on his Superman cape tonight and really led Oklahoma State to victory, and then Evan Mobley kind of right behind him. So I think those two are pretty solid at 1 and 2, and then it's fairly open. You know, I went up to watch the G League Ignite guys work out, saw 3 days of practice, and I think they have 2 potential top 5 picks there as well. You know, with Jalen Green, who's a 6'5", 6'6" scoring guard, kind of in that Zach LaVine mold, and then Jonathan Kuminga, 6'8", guards multiple positions, can make an open shot, kind of in that Jaylen Brown, like 3-and-D wing prototype, who's got a little bit more off the bounce. So this is a really talented, kind of deep top 5, and I think Suggs is right in that mix as well.
Andrew Nembhard knocks down a 3 for Gonzaga, so an answer for the #1 team of the country. All right, we're seeing some shots of Jalen Suggs, Mike, on our telecast right now. You mentioned how many NBA scouts are there. What do you do if you're a scout? You come to a game and you're watching a specific player, like I'm sure many of them wanted to see Jalen Suggs. He's got 4 fouls. He's hardly played tonight. Do you just what do you put down in your notebook? Just barely got to see him play.
Yeah, you watch the film, you know, and I think the main reason scouts come to games live is they want to watch the warm-up. They want to watch you shoot for an hour. How do you interact with your teammates? What does your body look like? And honestly, Jalen Suggs is the loudest guy on the bench right now. You know, we saw that dunk earlier from his teammate, and he was the first one on the floor waving the towel, fist bumping. If you watch him pregame, he's a guy who connects his teammates. And so I think scouts, although they'd like to see him play the game, I mean, athletically, physically, he's impressive, and he's a tremendous teammate as well.
How much does that really take into account, like the non-issues on the court? I mean, the kind of teammate he is, the kind of energy he brings when he's on the bench. How much does that help as far as sell a player to a general manager or a head coach?
It's huge. The intangibles are huge, and we're seeing that more and more in the NBA. I kind of look at it like a sliding scale. I mean, if you're not the most talented guy in the world, obviously your intangibles need to be off the charts. If you're a big-time talent who's really one of one in the country or in the draft, then okay, maybe a GM is going to be willing to take a little bit more of a swing with you. But with Suggs, you kind of have both. You know, you have a guy who's incredibly talented, who's improved really every year that we've evaluated him, and also checks all those boxes. So that's why I think he's pretty safe in the top 5 as we get closer to the draft.
Talking to Mike Schmitz, it's Gonzaga and Pepperdine from Malibu, NBA draft analyst at ESPN. A near steal for the Zags. And instead, a layup down low. Hey, Mike, we've been talking about Baylor, Texas. Huge game on ESPN coming up this week on Tuesday for folks who might tune in and watch #2 against #5. Any particular players from your perspective that they should be paying attention to?
Yeah, Jared Butler is obviously having a huge year. You know, I really like Davion Mitchell, to be honest. I think he's a little bit underrated with his ability to defend the ball at a high level. He's improved as a facilitator, as a perimeter shooter. I think he's a little bit of a sleeper. And then you have the high flyers, Greg Brown, Kai Jones. That's a lot of interesting long-term prospects, and then those Baylor guards are big time.
Yeah, you squeezed it all in, Mike. I put you in a bad spot there, and you got a lot of info in. Great to talk to you. Timeout from Malibu. We'll be back right after this. Purdue's good. The Big Ten is deep. It's competitive, and we know how deep and talented Gonzaga is. They are showing it off tonight. Pepperdine got off to a really good start in this game. They were up 16-7. Their senior leader, Colby Ross, looked like he was primed for a huge night. And since then, it's been all Zags. Aaron Cook, who had a terrific first half at the free throw line out of the timeout. Dave Fleming, Sean Farnham with you from Malibu, where the Zags have the 68-47 lead. Second free throw for Cook goes down.
I thought it was really interesting, you know, to hear Mike Schmitz talk about the fact Kessler Edwards, in his eyes, could be a guy that could hear his name in the first round next year. The upside is there. That's why you talk about talent and Lorenzo Romar trying to get this program into an area where they could start to see more success as far as wins-losses goes. You can get talented guys to go play at Pepperdine. In Southern California, it's not hard to find a Division I prospect that wants to play in college.
Kessler's brother Cameron was a really good player for Pepperdine. Finished up his Waves career last year. Nemhard's really playing well. Great pass to Cook, cutting to the basket.
Again, knowing how to play, improvising, breaking away from the structure of the offense into open space.
Colby Ross hits the three.
It's good to see after a hot start. He got into some foul issues, spent some time on the bench. He's now up to 14.
You know, Nemhard's having a terrific game himself. 12 points, 8 assists. He's playing a lot of minutes like Cook is, with Suggs on the bench with his foul trouble. Kispert makes his move, just a little too strong. The trailing big man for three. Off of Gonzaga.
Dave, how about this for balance? He has 71 points scored by Gonzaga in this game, and not a single player has attempted 10 shots. Kispert has 9, but it is balanced throughout. Cook has 7. Nemhard has 8. Timmy has 8. I mean, they share the ball, and the fact that you can't key on one person or two guys to try to take out, because there's multiple guys on the floor on a given game that can get to 20 points.
Slow it down until Corey Kispert gets here, and then pull up and try the three. A little too strong for Kispert. Kessler Edwards, the three was an air ball.
Dave, you and I were talking about this earlier today. Gonzaga's got a lot of really impressive wins in the non-conference. One of them was against Virginia when they scored 98 points. Up until Virginia's loss today, they were undefeated in the ACC. They're still in first place in the ACC, by the way. But their only two losses were to WCC schools. It was Gonzaga and it was USF. Todd Golden doing a great job for the Dons.
That is pretty remarkable. UVA could win the ACC, but go winless against the WCC. Timmy with a foul. Drew Timmy, he is just destroying this Pepperdine team for a second straight game.
Yeah, space, hesitation. See, to me, if you're going to bring a double, you got to bring that double as soon as he puts it down on the ground. One bounce, and I'm going on Drew Timmy. I'm not letting him get to a second or a third bounce to find his rhythm and get to the middle of the paint.
That was the Headband Club celebration after an and one. Made the free throw. Well, Drew Timmy's got 19, to your point, on 9 field goal attempts. Ross three, off to the side.
I go right back to number 2.
Cook's three came up short. Ross is good with those left-handed passes. That is, I think, a real skill for him. He found his teammate to knock down the three. Colby Ross, Pepperdine senior point guard, in case you're just joining us early in this game, got to the 2,000-point plateau in his career. All-time leading scorer in Pepperdine history, all-time leading assist man in Pepperdine history. Cook steals it away.
Career.
It really, truly bounce pass to Kispert for the lay-in.
But it's remarkable to watch this Gonzaga offense, though. I mean, Nemhard, 15-8. Timmy, 19-6. Corey Kispert quietly has 16-5. I mean, it's such a well-oiled machine, and I know we always want to go to say, how would they do against Baylor? I hope we get the opportunity to see it. But I just think the sheer numbers, the ball movement, the spacing, Gonzaga's on a different level right now. They've been on a different level all season long.
And I think Mark Few is very happy with the effort. Jalen Suggs, potential top 5 NBA draft pick, not playing real well, not playing much tonight. speaking of Pepperdine hoops history, a game that almost changed history involving the Waves. We're going to talk about that when we come back to Malibu. Well, one of the indelible images in the history of college basketball involved that man, of course, Jim Valvano, who a couple weeks after these images would celebrate one of the great championships in sports history. Dick Stockton and the CBS crew was on hand in Corvallis, Oregon in the first round of the NCAA tournament 1983, a game that went to double overtime. Pepperdine had a 6-point lead with like a minute to go and could not hold on to that lead in double overtime. Jim Herrick ended up burying his face in his hands, and Jim Valvano's team escaped. Terry Gannon, our colleague from NBC, hit a big jump shot to help the Wolfpack beat a really good Pepperdine team, and then, of course, would go on to beat UNLV in the second round, all the way to the Final Four in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and celebrate the Wolfpack National Championship. Pepperdine was up 6 with a minute to go and couldn't hold the lead. Otherwise, that story never would have been told.
Now, Will Wade is going, I know your pain after today when they were up 6 and then went on a 12-0 run and lost that game. But, it worked out okay for Jim Herrick. Worked out okay. He got to go back to Malibu and then eventually came to Westwood and won a national championship.
Yeah, the part of the story of that game, too, Dane Suttle, just an all-time great Pepperdine player. I think it was his scoring record that Colby Ross surpassed. Yep, he's certainly one of the all-time scoring leaders in the history of Pepperdine basketball. Dane Suttle was an All-American that year, leader of that Pepperdine team, and he missed 2 free throws late and sort of never forgave himself for those. Jalen Suggs back in the game in transition, lays it in.
You hear the bench gotta go, hey, as that one. This team has fun. This team has fun. They love playing the game of basketball.
I think, stylistically, Baylor and Gonzaga are very different. But in terms of the spirit of the programs, I think that is a similarity between the top 2 teams in the country right now. Because when you go watch Baylor play or practice, their kids love being there and have fun. And to me, it's the same vibe that Gonzaga gives off.
Yeah, we talked to Maceo Teague this week in studio, and he said, Vital is the guy that makes everybody laugh. I'm not sure who makes everybody laugh in Spokane, but the fans are enjoying it.
Combo, I would say, Malibu to Aspen. That is hard to beat that. Gonzaga with an 85-58 lead, late second half from Malibu, from the beach to the mountains when we're finished.
I bet you Aspen has good hotels. I've never been.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
You know where I have been?
Yeah, where?
The Davenport Hotel. That's a good hotel.
Mark Few was saying there's a possibility that his team, at some point, getting late in the season. So many of these coaches are having to worry about leading into the NCAA tournament, being even more cautious than everybody has been about the virus and keeping everybody healthy, and that the Davenport could end up being a home for his team for a certain amount of time as they try to just protect everybody and get ready for what they hope will be a very deep run.
Well, the beds will be comfortable. I know that. Food, very good. The peanut brittle, definitely a must grab.
Yeah, the Gonzaga fans who are watching, who know you too well, are shocked that you haven't mentioned one thing so far. And I think you should just go the whole game without mentioning it. I think you should.
Did I already mention it? Oh.
Tease him. Ayayi hits the 3. It barely moved the net.
They got to put it back on the menu first, Dave.
That's true.
I can't state it if it's not on the menu.
Sean's taking his business elsewhere. 3, no good. Jalen Suggs with the ball. Well, and Gonzaga, part of the charm of the place. Ayayi saw that coming all the way, stole it and laid it in. Man.
They are just so impressive in how workmanlike they are in how they play. They never deviate, Dave. Like, you're up 30, you start saying, okay, somebody's going to try to go get their shot. No. They just keep playing. They don't change. They cut. They move without the ball. They're unselfish. They turn down the good one to find the great one. Not a lot of teams do that up 30.
They just never deviate. They don't. And look, I mean, everybody watching at home can listen in. The bleachers are folded up. This place would be jam-packed in a normal year, full for the #1 team in the country. Only the second time a #1 team has ever played at Pepperdine. And yet, you know, it's, at least by sound, it almost has the feel of like a summer league game. Gonzaga does not treat these games that way at all. They play like this is a packed house, big-time conference test, and I think that is just super impressive. They're going to call a foul. Suggs hit the three, but wave it off. Gives us a chance to remind you again, coming up on ESPN, Big Monday, starting in the ACC 7 Eastern, Duke and Miami. And then in the Big 12, number 24, Oklahoma against number 10, Texas Tech. Wow, we sped up there a little bit on the waveboard, or whatever you call it, the paddle board. Oklahoma, Texas Tech at 9 Eastern on Monday.
He almost fell. I wish he did.
Yeah.
That would be so great if we had an establishing shot like that where the guy just totally fails on the wave.
I think we could make that happen someday. You just plant the camera out there for a few minutes in Malibu. You see somebody wipe out. Anton Watson's into double figures. He's got 10. Gonzaga is shooting 80% from two-point range in this game. I mean, their efficiency on offense is just, again, off the charts. And when they aren't taking threes, they're making almost every shot.
And people around the country, you'll tune in and you'll look at the score and that's, they're just playing the West Coast Conference and that's what happens. Now, this is what happened when they played everybody this year. I mean, really, their average margin of victory is 24 points per game. And when you look at their schedule and you look at who they've played against in the non-conference and what they did against them, you start to understand this is a unique group of players. I said this a month ago. I think they're going to be undefeated at the end of the regular season. I think they're winning the national championship, which means I think this team will be the first undefeated national champion we've seen in college basketball since 1976.
Would be enormous. I mean, this Pepperdine team played UCLA. They're leading the Pac-12, and they took them to triple overtime. Probably should have beaten them.
Yeah.
That's a whistle and a foul against Pepperdine. So that takes us to a timeout from Malibu with Mark Fuse. #1 Zags up 30. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy Shots. Get it done. (92-62). Wasn't looking like it was going to be this kind of game early on. Gonzaga has turned it up a couple notches, and a terrific game lined up for Tuesday in the Big 12. Number 2 Baylor in Austin take on number 5 Texas at 7 Eastern right here on ESPN. It'll stream live on the app. You got good big men, but I think especially, Sean, the matchup of the guards in that one, fascinating.
Great guards. Jared Butler playing as well as really anybody in the country as of late for Baylor. Maceo Teague, phenomenal. Davion Mitchell, just really great at the defensive end of the floor. Two-way player for them. And then you look at the Texas guards, and Ramey's got to be back. Matt Coleman's been consistent. The story in college basketball to me is Andrew Jones, a survivor of cancer, to come back and play as well as he has played this year. It's one of the great stories in college basketball, and this Texas Longhorns team has had a great run so far this college basketball season. Their game canceled today or postponed, whatever you want to call it, against Kentucky. But looking forward to that matchup.
Yeah, inspirational Andrew Jones. Julian Strother, a young player that Mark Few wants to get some minutes for here down the stretch of this season, just in case in a big game, some extra foul trouble or whatnot. Made 1 of 2 free throws. A nice little play for Pepperdine, and Kendall Munson finished. Well, I heard Reese Davis agreeing with you, Sean. He's calling for the Zags already this early to be the eventual national champions.
Well, it just, look at the ease in which they've played through this game. It hasn't been forced. And you're shooting 61% from the floor. You've got 93 points with 4 minutes left to go in the game. How many teams can score 94 points in a college basketball game?
Yeah, not that many. And Gonzaga does it. That's what they average, 94 a game. They average 94 a game, and they make it look easy, and they do it taking their starters out with 5 minutes to go, and they do it with some top-line players in foul trouble. I mean, even the teams on that list, whatever that list is, Sean, of who can get to 95 in a game in college hoops, just about everything has to go well for most of those teams to hit that mark. Not for Gonzaga.
That's what makes them unique. And Dave,
that's a foul.
Yeah, it is a foul, and that means that we get the Best Coast headline. So all my guys on the East Coast, Alan Cuff, John Crispin, KC, enjoy the snow. It's nice out here. Evan Mobley, he's been dominant both ends of the floor for USC. The Pac-12 women's conference, by the way, has been sensational. 4 teams in the top 11. UCLA at number 5, the top-ranked team. And then how about Boise State? A bounce back. They lost their first game of conference play against Colorado State. The Mountain West, you play the same team back-to-back games. They came back, picked up the win. And Boise State's a team to watch in the NCAA tournament. And where they get seeded, they have the potential to advance.
For sure. Colorado State's a pretty good team. That's a cool story, how they've rebuilt their program. Well, we took it all the way down to the end, Sean, but we got the Best Coast headlines in. Watson 3, no good. Watson trying to bully his way to the basket. He'll go to the free throw line instead.
I'll be honest, he's just pushing off so much with his left hand, he almost fell over.
He really did, and that's what Anton Watson's saying. Like, seriously, that foul's on me?
That's a tough one.
How about the balance tonight for Gonzaga?
Just look at it. This is a quiet 6 guys in double figures. Look at the number of shot attempts that they took to get there, too. The efficiency in which they play. How much they enjoy sharing the basketball. They have 10 assists on 17 made field goals here in the second half. So in a game where you think you can go one-on-one and start kind of showing what you got, no. They're passing it actually at a higher clip in the second half than they were the first.
That 3 is a little too strong. Dominic Harris, who's probably going to be, I would think, a really good player for Gonzaga at some point. How about Strother dunking it home, the freshman from Las Vegas. One thing Mark Few told us, Sean, was that a couple of these guys, Julian Strother, Dominic Harris, Umar Ballo, I mean, he wants to get some game experience, some extra game experience down the stretch of this year for those players, just in case. There could be a game where you never know. Jalen Suggs, by the way, that was his 5th foul, so he will go to the bench.
I thought he was in pretty good positioning there, by the way, to get the charge.
I did too.
And I like the fact that he tried to get the charge.
I mean, for all those NBA scouts who are there tonight, they're watching a guy who's probably going to be a top 5 draft pick in the NBA in a 25-point blowout where it's been a super frustrating game for him with a minute to go, try to take a charge.
Yeah.
Maybe they're talking about that right now.
Mike Schmitz definitely is talking about that. He is definitely talking about that.
Mike made a good point about that stuff. Final minute plus from Malibu. Sloppy pass. Pepperdine in transition. A foul.
Dave, to your point, too, about this team and wanting to get younger players involved, one of the things that I think that we don't talk about enough is the player development that happens in Spokane. Whether it be the players that redshirted and just how much it turned around their career or accelerated their careers, to the guys that transferred in and had to sit out, how that benefited not only them but benefited the team. I remember Nigel Williams-Goss and Jonathan Williams when they were practicing against the Gonzaga team that was really, really good. Those games at practice were so competitive that it seemed like the game was a little bit easier actually in the game. And both, by the way, those players benefited when they became eligible and had the opportunity to play.
I mean, I'd have to think about it, but who in college basketball has been better at player development than Gonzaga? I don't know that anybody has that.
I mean, people forget Kelly Olynyk redshirted. Like, he redshirted.
Yeah, turned into a first-team All-American.
And so that comes from complete buy-in by the player. But the buy-in from the player has to be sold by the message from the coach and the staff and saying, hey, we believe in you. We feel like you can do this. We feel like your best basketball is ahead of you. And then you got to convince mom, dad, everybody that's in the inner circle of that player so that everybody is supportive of the process and the journey that takes place.
Well, the big lead has been whittled down in these last few minutes, down to 20. Not that it's
that would be important to some.
Not that it's going to impact the ultimate outcome of this game, but yeah, some people might be interested in that. And they wanted to see Anton Watson. Some did throw that one down.
Now they want to see a stop.
Some were less happy about that. That's the way it goes at the end of these games. Kendall Munson, he is just going to try to bully his way to the basket. I don't blame him, but he couldn't finish that time. And that probably is going to do it.
That was a significant play late in the game, folks.
Anton Watson.
Is Stanford Steve watching? Stanford might put that one on Monday.
Is
that a bad beat?
Possibility. Well, I guess it is. It would have been really in the other direction because Gonzaga was in firm control of this game. Lorenzo Romar's team got off to the hot start, Sean, and then had no resistance for the number one team in the country. 41 wins in a row against Pepperdine for Mark Few's program. Amazing.
Yeah, outstanding. And the focus of this team to come out, shoot 60% from the field, to share the ball, 21 assists. They did everything they wanted, include get 52 points in the paint. 52, Dave.
Yeah, they shot 80% or thereabouts shooting twos in this game. Their top 5 NBA draft prospect didn't have a big night, but almost everybody else, Corey Kispert, smiling underneath the mask, included, did for Gonzaga. The number one Zags roll in Malibu. Drew Timme and company. Another spectacular performance for Sean Farnham and our great crew. Dave Fleming saying so long from Pepperdine as the Zags beat the Waves 97-75.